Thank you for listening to this Podcast One production, available on Apple Podcasts and Podcast One.
There is a place that is spoken about only in whispers, a dark area that spawns the beginnings of urban legends, a place where anything can happen and usually does. During the light of day, it hides just outside of view, but when the sun goes down, spirits, creatures of the night, roam free, and things do go bump in the night. It is in every state and every country, and there is no escaping it, no matter how safe you feel behind your locked doors and latched windows. So we invite you to turn down the lights and turn up your radio while we join Dave Schrader and Tim Dennis, your hosts, on a journey into the darkness on the edge of town.
Hello and welcome. You're tuned into the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness. I'm your host, Dave Schrader. That guy's Tim Dennis. Happy belated Halloween, everybody. We hope you enjoyed our Halloween treat for you. And if you didn't see it, you should go back because it's available through Podcast One. Tim diligently went through the calls over the last 2 years and put together an entire episode of just listeners' stories. So it was a full 2-hour show full of paranormal stories. So we hope that you enjoyed that little gift, especially from Tim. I was busy, so he pieced it together and did a beautiful job on that. Let's get rolling today. Supernatural news. Parashare. We've got a lot of stuff to cover this week, Tim. Most of it seems to be about haunted houses. How hard is that to believe? The week of Halloween, there are unbelievable amounts of stories of haunted houses.
Go figure.
All right, where are we going to begin this week's journey?
Well, this one, we'll go creepy dolls. How's that sound for the first deal?
And right here in our backyard.
Yeah, right in Olmsted County, right down there in Rochester. I don't know why I say it like that, but probably because nobody else in Minnesota would. There's a creepy doll exhibit, Dave, which brings the international attention right there to Rochester, and it has nothing to do with the Mayo Clinic or Mayo Hospital whatsoever. The Olmsted County History Center in Rochester, I'll just say it until you get tired of me, is getting people in the Halloween spirit while also making their skin crawl without having anything to do with a cancer diagnosis over there at Mayo. Just saying. For the first time, it now has a creepy doll exhibit, and it's giving the small museum international attention. Dan Nowakowski is the curator over there, and he said, "We're just lucky we had some dolls in really good shape." Oh, Dan, little do you know, they're in good shape and they're haunted and they're going to pluck your eyes out. Just saying.
Yeah. Demonic dolls are always in good shape, right? They're always the ones that you don't expect to be creepy.
Yep. They never age. They're haunted. Just saying. Once toys for children decades ago, made between the 1850s and the 1930s, they are now nightmare fuel for adults today. Why shouldn't they be? Nowakowski says to get in the Halloween spirit, the History Center held a contest on Facebook asking people to vote which doll was the creepiest. It just took off, Nowakowski said. He couldn't figure it out because he's so busy doing other stuff with history and stuff. Social media fun turned into international attention with news agencies far and wide wanting to learn more about this humble museum spooky sensation. We weren't anticipating as much publicity as we have gotten through this. And actually, we were only going to display the 3 winners, and now because of people's demand to see other dolls from the collection, we decided to actually create an entire exhibit around them, Nowakowski said. He says the dolls don't carry any haunted backstories, and he's hopeful visitors will look past their eerie expressions if possible. Then when you actually study it and look at it and read the description, you're just like, oh, I can see, okay. When this was first made, actually, it was actually very pristine and very good and taken care of, Nowakowski said. The exhibit will be on display through December 1st, so you still have some time to take a look at it. For those who are hoping to see it yesterday, the History Center was only open a couple extra hours until 7 p.m., so really you either had to choose, go get your candy on Halloween or go look at haunted dolls. It wasn't really much of a choice. I mean, go get your candy. I mean, the haunted dolls will be there till December 1st, right?
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, it gives you a chance to go out and say, well, are they haunted? They kind of hedge we don't really know. They're creepy, but we can't say they're haunted.
Yeah.
Maybe I should go in there with a bunch of my haunted dolls and just leave them throughout the building.
I think it's a good, just drop them off. I think that's probably the best thing to do is just find extra shelf space, set them up, put little placards next to them, and they don't know the difference.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'm going to do. I'll just sneak in there and start dropping off creepy ass dolls. Then there'll be an article. Strange dolls start appearing at the creepy doll exhibit.
They multiplied, they bred, they had extra dolls. It'll be some sort of weird phenomena that we'll be reading a story about. Little did they know.
Weird what?
Just phenomena.
Weird what?
Phenomena.
You said it was weird what?
Phenomena.
Bam! That was my Broadway Halloween version, Tim.
Bam? There's a bam. You went all emerald on it at the end?
I did. I was trying to give you big jazz hands, but those don't play well over the radio, so I gave you the bam at the end to let you know that happened.
I see. Now I feel like we need to cook. We have to have a cooking segment on this deal now.
Wow, we should do that. Paranormal, I'll kind of dip it into you and Mally's deal with your paranormal drinks.
Yeah.
Paranormal Plate. That's it. I'm going to start my own show.
Yeah,
I'm going to call it Paranormal Plate, and it'll be me whipping up paranormal meals.
There you go.
Have like Eye of Newt and Wing of Bat.
I was thinking more spooky spaghetti, but hey, that's
Tongue of Mouse and Ear of Cat.
Ew.
Ooh, I like this is, guys. I already hear the opening of this show.
Yeah. It doesn't sound like anything very appetizing, that's for sure.
Move over. Getting drunk with Mally Fox. I'm sorry. What's the name of the show?
Jesus Christ. Really? It can't. It's On the Rocks with Mally Fox. There's alliteration there.
I like getting drunk with Mally Fox better, personally.
Oh, I bet you do.
And you guys just did a Halloween episode, didn't you?
We just came out with an episode, yes, on Halloween. It's up now on YouTube. Just look for On the Rocks with Mally Fox. It's up on YouTube.
And then you can look for my addendum, Getting Drunk with Mally Fox, which is me just peering in the window watching Tim and Mally get drunk together.
Yeah.
So,
that's
all right. Since it's also kind of Parashare, I have this interesting article, Tim. And since this is students from around sharing their different paranormal stories from around the world, I thought I'd kind of include this.
Okay.
If you don't, and we'll kind of dip into the different ones. Penn State students are sharing their paranormal stories from around the world. The concept of a ghost has frightened humanity now for centuries. When the first ghost stories were written in Roman times, the evolution of paranormal life has encompassed the globe. Originally recorded in Europe, ghost stories and paranormal sightings have gone well beyond the continent. Hauntings are typically associated with tragic events that happen in certain areas of the world, battle sites to wars, deaths, and burials. Well, the Daily Collegian reached out to several culturally based organizations who told of childhood tales of paranormal activity. And I'll mention a couple of these in between each one of your stories. According to History.com, a ghost is defined as someone whose soul is separated from their body and still lives on after the body is dead. Because of fear for the afterlife, the multiple societies believe that a funeral is a ritual of making sure that a person's soul does not wander or haunt the living people on earth. In Hispanic culture, the spirit of a woman has lingered around innocence for centuries. Her name, La Llorona. Tim. La Llorona.
La Lasagna?
Yeah, also known as the Weeping Woman. Tells of the own woman's loss and is the driving force for her continuous haunting to this day. The story is about a woman who's very young and beautiful. Evelyn Fonseca. It's not even a hard name. Evelyn Fonseca said she ends up getting married to this man, and they're pretty great and have kids. But the story of a beautiful woman turns dark when her husband leaves her for a younger woman. In a fit of rage, the woman takes her children to a body of water where she drowns them. She murdered her kids. So when she died, in order to go into the afterlife, they ask her for the souls of her kids. Fonseca, who is a sophomore telecommunications student, said, She said she did not know where their souls are because she drowned them. She is then denied entry into the afterlife. And so she has to roam the earth now looking for her kids. And the earth's a big place, Tim. I have a hard time keeping track of my kids at Target.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine in their ghost form how hard they'd be to track on the planet.
Well, it'd be a bit of a search, yeah.
Fonseca has heard this story since she was a wee little girl in Mexico. Wee little girl, Tim. Growing up near a body of water, a site of the most Llorona sightings. Did not make it easy when being out late with her friends when she was younger. The origins of the story are uncertain, yet show signs of having pre-Hispanic roots. The story of La Llorona is to be one of the 10 omens foretelling the conquest of Mexico and linked to Aztec goddesses, Tim.
I see, yeah.
Legend of the story is when one is near a body of water and hears a weeping woman, she may be around. Even if that person is not her kid, she is known for taking their lives as she did to her own children. She'll drown you. I don't know why I said it that way. The accent really is Mexican. Yeah. She'll drown you. Yeah, that sounds a little bit more like Romanian, Hungarian.
Very Transylvanian of you.
She'll drown you, Fonseca said. She snatches children. Checks it if it is her kid, and if not, she'll drown you. Every time I was around a body of water at night when it was dark, I would be so scared that I would hear a woman crying, asking for her kids. In Caribbean culture, or is it Caribbean, Tim? We say Caribbean, yet it's the Pirates of the Caribbean. I'm so confused.
You can simplify it. You can say Caribbean. That's fine.
Okay. Thank you for the permission. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
in the Caribbean culture, a similar tale exists of a woman who still lurks upon the island looking for the ruin of youth. Lakeisha Wade has never seen any paranormal sightings herself, but mentioned how she would behave better when someone mentioned this chained spirit. In the Virgin Islands, we have a ghost story about Cowfoot Woman. Wade, who is a junior early child education student, said, according to Wade, the crazy voodoo lady from St. Thomas worked in a meat factory where her foot got caught in one of the machines. A new foot was sewn back on, but the twist? I think you already know what's coming, Tim, since her name is Cowfoot Woman. Her foot was torn off, a new foot is sewn on, and it was a cow's foot, Tim.
Oh, a cow's foot. That's a shock.
She is said to drag around chains and grab bad and wayward children, Wade said. Our parents would tell us this tale so that we would be good. Once when I was younger, people said, Tim, are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
This people said. It's me killing time because the story just suddenly scrolls by itself because of demonic forces in my home.
Oh, boy.
She is said to drag around chains and grab bad and wayward children. Our parents would tell us this tale so we'd be good. Once when I was younger, people said they saw her around the elementary school searching for all the bad children to take back with her. All right, we've got other stories from Puerto Rico. But first, Tim, let's go back to some more supernatural news.
We'll go to New Hampshire, Dave, which is hardly as exotic as Puerto Rico. I'm just saying. A mom there decorated her son's grave with a life-size skeleton. She says, which why not? I mean, 'tis the season. She says cemetery officials keep removing it. She doesn't understand why, Dave. She doesn't get the poor taste in which has been exhibited. A New Hampshire woman is pushing back against cemetery officials after she says the Halloween decorations she placed at her son's grave have been repeatedly removed. Oh, why?
You know, everybody finds a way to deal with grieving. And, you know, her kid, I think, he was like a cowboy, right? She keeps burying.
Yeah.
You see like these skeleton legs and hands coming out and a head with a cowboy hat on it. And they keep taking it down.
Yeah. They kind of go, whoa, ma'am, that's it's maybe a little much. Christina Wool of Francetown, rather, decorated the grave of her son, William Cole Wool. Cole Wool, that's kind of catchy. With a skeleton wearing a cowboy hat, as Dave said. Her son died in 2016 at the age of 18 after riding a horse on a rodeo in Castleton, Vermont. He was about to be voted into the Francistown Fire Department, according to WMUR, the Murr, Dave, the Murr. Wool told the New Hampshire union leader her son died of a heart attack after the rodeo competition. The cowboy from that's kind of tragic. The cowboy from Francistown, his headstone reads, "A smile to brighten your day." "I'm getting tired of Cole's Halloween decorations being removed," Wool wrote on her Facebook page on October 21st, sharing photos of the decorations before and after they were removed. "This is rude. There's nothing wrong with having a little fun with death. Sometimes you have to laugh because there is so much to cry over." She said the decorations aren't interfering with mowing since there is no grass growing over her son's plot. This is October. Get some spirit, she wrote. Polly Fries, chairman of the Francistown Cemetery Commission, told the union leader the commission has the right to move any decoration and is under no obligation to contact families about the removals. She told the newspaper the skeleton decoration was in the way of landscapers who mow the cemetery every week. "It's really frustrating because you're dealing with emotion on the one side and with the law on the other, and we're coming across as the bad guys," Fries told the union leader. Wool disputed on Facebook that the cemetery is mowed every week and said that the decorations were removed 36 hours after she put them back into place. "I'm sorry that this gets under my skin, but the cemetery shouldn't just be about sadness. It should be about the joy of celebrating a life, being with a loved one, and letting their spirit shine. The loss of a child is horrible, and they shouldn't have to be just a name on stone," she wrote. The cemetery may be their new eternal home, but it doesn't have to be dull and boring. It can be full of life and convey the happiness that they shared in life with so many. There you go.
Where do you stand on that? I mean, if you went to go visit Grandpa Dennis and somebody's decorated up the grave next to you with a zombie arm coming up, are you just going to chuckle and roll your eyes? Or does it kind of offend you? Because, you're there paying respects to your grandpa and grandma.
Grandpa had a sense of humor, so I'd probably kind of chuckle at it.
Yeah. I can kind of see both sides. It's weird, but we're so snobby here in the United States when it comes to death. That's why I'm telling you, man. My retirement plan is I'm opening up a company. I'm going to call it Funeral. We put the fun in funerals. And it's going to be a fun time. It's going to be a gathering of people before you die. So you can lay in your coffin while everybody eulogizes and says how amazing you are. So you get to hear it and enjoy it. And it's a party. People are in a better festive mood. Instead of a bunch of maudlin, weeping, whining people you've got at your funeral. Wouldn't it be nicer to go out that way?
It would be. You just made me think of something as you were like, would Grandpa like that? He always liked that joke about burying me ass up so you have a place to park your bike.
So what you should do is go, take a pair of jeans, fill them, have part of it buried so his ass is up, and then have a bike parked in between the butt cheeks.
Yes, yeah.
That would be funny.
Yeah. So, I guess I'd kind of like to invest in that company you've got coming up.
All right. And how about we buy a cemetery plot? I mean, there's a lot of land in Minnesota to buy. We'll buy a big cemetery plot area and we'll call it the Scrapbooker Cemetery. So you could go in and decorate up as, your plot only. Your plot only, but you can decorate it up and you're allowed to have those decorations up for a week, and then you've got to pull them down and either refresh them or get it that way so people don't just set it up, leave it there, and it gets all messy and gross.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I want my gravestone made of that same fabric that you used to have on T-shirts, so when you touch it, you'd leave handprints. Do you remember those?
Oh, yeah.
What were those called? What was that fabric called? Do you remember?
It was it was heat sensitive.
Hypercolor.
Hypercolor. That's right.
Winifred mouths to me from across the room. Hypercolor. Yeah, I'd want my gravestone hypercolor so when you touch it, it leaves your handprint.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be cool?
That would be cool. Yeah, I can dig it. Yeah.
All right, we've got to go on here, Tim. I've got more strange stories from people around the world. A Halloween celebration would not be fit without tales of monsters with scary fangs, with a thirst for blood. With the classic creatures of werewolves or vampires, variations of the two have been a part of other cultures, keeping the youth in line, with origins in Puerto Rico, Tim. Story of the chupacabra has scared children to behave for years in Latin American countries.
Coffee is scary.
Now, this is the first time I've heard that they use chupacabra to scare children. Have you ever heard that before?
Oh, I would do it if I could. Yeah.
Fonseca has fond memories of being scared by the bloodthirsty beast when she was younger. I think the direct translation of it is goat sucker. Well, if you grew up there, how do you not know what it stands for?
Yeah.
It's this creature that's kind of like a dog, but more ravenous, larger, huge teeth, and can walk on 2 feet. The other ones kind of look like lizards with wings. Chupacabra, maybe he's having an identity crisis. Maybe he's in transition. I don't know. He's tired of looking like...
He's in transition.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's the way he's living his life. Be proud.
He's not feeling himself lately.
No.
Like
Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster, there are some images of the creature of the chupacabra. People claim to have captured it. I was not told about it by my parents, but it was a more common knowledge as like a kid. Oh my God, the chupacabra is going to eat me, Fonseca said. On the other side of the Atlantic Ocean in Malaysia, a female vampire lures men as she continues to want to ruin their lives of men who caused her death. The president of Penn State's Malaysian Students Club, Hanane Sitanur, has grown up listening to stories of this vampire who seeks vengeance on humanity. One of the most famous ghosts in Malaysia is named Pontianak. That's really the lamest vampire ghost name I've ever heard.
That kind of sounds like a car manufacturer's funk band. Yeah.
Fear me, for I am Pontianak. Sittner, who's a junior aerospace engineering student, said, it's like a female vampire, and in order to become a Pontianak, a woman must either be killed in childbirth or be murdered while pregnant. Well, that's a cheerful story.
Yeah.
She then rises up and seeks revenge on the men who are responsible for her death. It's funny, I've come into the close confines with some bloodsuckers like that, and they were still alive, Tim.
Interesting.
In Malaysia, the beliefs of Islam are taken very seriously amongst its followers. Islam is one of the most heavily practiced religions in the country, and failing to abide by its rules can have some serious consequences. In the Islamic belief, there are other spirits, like witches, for example, Senator said. It is ultimately prohibited to believe in witches because it is like you're worshiping those witches and spirits and not worshiping God. The performance of witchcraft is something that some people partake in, but is considered to be highly illegal. Whether witches or the magic of witches are real or not, what witchcraft can do is far beyond just simplistic items or tasks. I believe these witches are real because it used to be that in order to be pretty or be rich, you had to use witchcraft. Senator said, a woman can ask a witch to make herself prettier, and it can happen very quickly. I believe that witch is Mary Kay, Tim.
I think so, too. That pink Cadillac is mesmerizing.
Maybelline.
Yeah.
Why can't you be true, Maybelline? But asking favors, Tim, this is where you got to be careful.
Mm-hmm.
Asking favors of witches can come with consequences. When I was a kid, I was told if you practice witchcraft, you will die in torture, Senator said. Senator has never performed witchcraft, yet she knows people that have done it. When I was a kid, I noticed an older man who would shake a lot, Senator said. Before he died, the other older people would say his ancestors had summoned a spirit to take care of the family. She said she also has seen it for herself. One of my closest friends was bewitched. Da-da, 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 not that kind of bewitched, Tim.
Oh.
Random theme song. I bet only about 8% of our audience knew that.
Probably.
She was walking in an ordinary mall one day, and she suddenly got dazed and confused by a woman who was saying things to her. That woman turned out to be, you guessed it, Tim, a witch. Although these stories feature gruesome plot lines and scary creatures, the stories hold meaning beyond the blood and gore, Tim. It's just not blood and gore that sells it all, buddy.
No?
No, it was beyond that. These stories can teach people lessons in a way that is not typically expected. As I'm older, I can understand the reasoning behind La Llorona, Fonseca said. When you're a kid and you're around a body of water, you could drown. Fonseca reasoned that communities probably feared children drowning and thus created a story to keep them safe. Cultural ghost stories can also make people feel connected to their history, even if they are personally disconnected from their heritage. I feel like with any culture, it's important to have a story that connects you with your relatives or your culture, Fonseca said. I was born and raised in Mexico, and I still enjoy staying connected to my culture. And these stories are a part of that. Well, Tim, I was born and raised in Medina, Illinois, but I like to be connected to the Mexican culture through tequila and Taco Bell.
Oh, that's a rough combo.
Especially together, yeah. In Mexican culture, death is celebrated, as can be seen during the Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. Though deceased family and friends are not physically seen, they remain a part of the family. And in Mexican culture, we celebrate people who have crossed over and gone on to the afterlife, Fonseca said. It's important to acknowledge those that we have lost, but we also feel like they're still with us and can always be a part of our daily lives. And that comes from Penn State, Tim, the collegiate newspaper.
No.
All right, where are we off to next in the world of supernatural news and such?
I think we take on Penn State. The Minnesota Golden Gophers do coming up next weekend. Yeah.
Take on us.
Just saying. We're going to Baltimore, where a 244-year-old haunted Baltimore bar has workers talking to ghosts. They probably should focus on the living, Dave. Somebody needs a drink.
That's right.
Just saying.
Whose leg do I got to hump to get a martini around here?
Well, that's probably not how you get the martini. You probably want to hold up the cash. Just saying. You don't have to go far to experience the supernatural. There are several places in Fells Point that are reportedly haunted, including the horse you came in on, where the unexplained can be a part of the everyday experience, not just on Halloween. That's what it says in the article, Dave. I just read what's put in front of me.
You don't have to explain to me, man.
Yeah. It has been around a long time. It's got a lot of history, says bar manager Robert Napier. The bar and restaurant in Fells Point dates back to 1775. It's built with a tin ceiling that predates electricity. Probably a good thing, because you don't want to combine electricity with a tin ceiling.
Tin roof! Rusted!
Yep.
Love Shack! Baby Love Shack! That did not sound like Rolf the dog.
Thank you for once.
The whole shack shimmies and everybody's moving around and around and around and around.
That song would be different if it was Rolf the dog singing it, that's for sure.
Yeah, it would be.
I've been told I sound less like Rolf the dog and more like Beetlejuice.
Who told you that?
One of the listeners, Tim. Don't deny the listeners. If that's what they hear, that's what they hear.
It was one.
Well,
told you that.
Every one is important to me, Tim. I would hug them all if I could.
Uh-huh.
Long, lingering, uncomfortable hugs. All of them.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Restraining order. That would become two important words in your universe if you gave them long, lingering hugs, every one of them.
Don't forget uncomfortable.
Yeah, and uncomfortable. Sorry, forgot that one. The bar and restaurant in Fells Point dates back to 1775. There's that tin ceiling that predates electricity and has some of the original brick still on it. There's still an entryway to the speakeasy, which was open during...
So you're saying it's a brick house? It's mighty, mighty. I hear they're letting it all hang out there, Tim.
They do. They do that. There's still an entryway to the speakeasy, which was open during Prohibition. It's also the last place Edgar Allan Poe was seen alive. You got that going for you.
Was that Prohibition?
No, it wasn't. Prohibition.
Kill me.
Yeah. Edgar Allan Poe was theorized to have had his last drink here, found him a couple of blocks up the street, and passed away on his way to the hospital, Napier said, with such empathy that it almost made the reporter cry. Kidding. The 244-year-old bar has been the subject of many a ghost story nationwide. There's a lot of people who don't want to be in here by themselves if they're closing the bar back or something like that, Napier said. There's a lot of lights turning on, turning off, TVs turning on and off. I walk by the bar and a glass is just sitting on the bar and it just shatters out of nowhere. And I turned around to the guy who was behind me. His eyes were this big. I can't tell you how big they were because it's radio. And he goes, I was working last night and the same thing, exact thing happened. and in the same exact spot, Napier said. More than one bar patron has looked in the mirror and reported seeing an image other than their own. I was in here one morning opening, and I was the only person in here. I had my head down doing something behind the rail, and I was so convinced that somebody walked by. He had his head down doing something behind the rail. And he said, I said, you can't be in here. We're not open yet. I looked up and there was nothing, Napier said. A desk drawer is said to be open on its own on the 4th floor, and no one wants to be left alone in the attic. Don't we all? If that door is cracked at all, the hair on the back of your neck is way up, Napier said. That sounded like a very old man thing to say. Beyond that fact, we have live music open to close 7 days a week. We have a great menu. Staff is friendly. Ambiance. Come on down and check it out. If you're into haunted stories, it just adds to it, Napier went on to say. And there you go. That's the rest of the story.
And that is the rest of the story. But you know what story is still in play, Tim?
What's that?
Just how bad you and I are, it appears, at football picks.
How can you say that?
Because flipping Adam Carolla's at like 40 points and we're at like 15. Adam Carolla's got to deal with the devil, Tim.
You want to know why?
Why he's got to deal with the devil? No, I understand it. So he could beat us. The only way he could beat us.
The whole thing's rigged, Dave. Let me tell you something. Last week, my friend, 4 out of 5 games. We picked 4 out of 5 games correctly. Mm-hmm. 4 out of 5 games.
4 out of 5. That is pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Well, what we're talking about, for people that are unfamiliar, is we've got something going on with a fantastic sponsor for our program, working along with all of Podcast One, really. And it is the betonline.ag charity pick'em contest. And this is week 9. I'll just have you know. So what we've got going is we've given a false sense of security to the likes of Adam Carolla. Mm-hmm. All right. So we have one end of the spectrum. I've been holding on to Stone Cold's bald head long enough, holding him back behind us. And now it's time for us to unleash real football knowledge, Tim, so that we can leave Stone Cold in a cloud of dust and a hearty Hi-O silver, and we can gain on and perhaps, like Nancy Kerrigan and Tanya Harding, kneecap Adam Carolla in football picks.
I think we need to go to the judges and get a full accounting of our points. I think we're being held back. I think they don't have our full points awarded to us, is what it is.
We'll have to get in on that, but let's get going. Here's what's going on. We've got our games picked for the week. We have to pick 5 games at a lock, which we've already won our lock because we're just that good. Thursday night, we pulled it out of our collective consciousness, and we pulled out a big winner. Tomorrow, the remaining 4 games will be played. So this is what's going on. First of all, if you guys want to play along with us, go to betonline.ag. That's betonline.ag. Sign up and use the code podcast1. All right. That's an important aspect of this, kids. Make sure that you use that code because it's only going to help you. It's a 50% sign up bonus. betonline.ag, your online sportsbook experts, are making this as easy as possible to play along. All right. So whether you want to bet on NFL, college football, or the World Series, it's all heating up with games that you never want to miss out on. And Tim and I are having a lot of fun. Either way, we've been having a great time. Every week, one of the shows who scored the most points is awarded $500. Any of their listeners that reach out to them and prove that they're playing along at betonline.ag, they get, there's 5 of them get picked each week to get $100. That's pretty sweet. Mm-hmm. It's a $5,000 season-long charity contest. Why are you guys doing this? This is a supernatural show. Ain't nobody want to hear about football. Well, we're doing it because there's charity involved, folks. That's why. And there's sponsors. But it's charity and sponsors. But mostly charity, Tim.
And who doesn't like money?
Charity.
Yeah.
So, plus we're in this competition. Tim and I have set our sights on toppling Adam Carolla's empire.
Yeah.
Even if that means I have to go let all the air out of every one of his racing cars.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, and then we got Stone Cold, who, again, we're kind of keeping at arm's length. I think we might be able to take him out completely by the end of the season. One too many steel chairs to the head. I think he's I think this week, Tim, just to let you know how off he is in the San Francisco versus Arizona game.
Yeah.
He picked Baltimore. I'm just saying.
Whoa.
He doesn't have it all there.
Whoa.
Yeah, I could be wrong.
Wow.
So let's tell the good people listening, Tim, in a quick manner so we can move back into Supernatural so nobody whines at us that we're trying to help, charity.
Jeez.
Yeah. What are our picks for this week, Tim?
Well, as you stated, Dave, we already picked the 49ers on Thursday night. They pulled out a win against the Arizona Cardinals. It was a close game there, but hey, Garofalo and the boys won that one for us. So we're already 1-0 on the week. Here's what's coming up on Sunday that we have already picked for you, and these are the games that you should pick on BetOnline AG. The Redskins are taking on the Bills. They're at Buffalo. We think the Bills are going to pick that one and take that one pretty darn easily. Bet on the Bills on Sunday. Also coming up on Sunday, we got a little contest going on between the Buccaneers and the Seahawks. Seattle is at home. Jameis Winston has had some issues at quarterback lately. He's actually one of two quarterbacks to have the most turnovers in the NFL. It's going to be an easy game, I think, for the Seahawks. Look for the Seahawks to win that one on Sunday. The Green Bay Packers have been red hot in the NFC North this year, unfortunately for our Minnesota Vikings, if you know what I mean. Packers are at the Chargers, and even though the Packers are on the road this week, I don't think it's going to be much of a problem for Aaron Rodgers and the boys this week. Look for the Packers to win this week, and that is your third pick at BetOnline AG this week. And, of course, even though Bill Belichick and the boys are down a little bit on offense, they have a great defense, and they are playing Sunday night at the Ravens, although that may be a gotcha game. We don't think so. The New England Patriots continue to roll this week. Bet on the Patriots at the Ravens. The Patriots pull one out on Sunday night in primetime. Tom Brady is always on. Patriots are your last team to pick. So again, 49ers, Bills, Seahawks, Packers, Patriots. That's your clean sweep for the week, and those are what the Darkness boys are picking for their Week 9 picks.
I'm going to tell you, Minnesota at Kansas City. Mahomes still out, Tim. This is just an extra little gimme.
Is that for sure? That Mahomes is out?
I have Mahomes as my quarterback on fantasy, and he's still doubtful.
He's doubtful.
Yeah.
Okay, because as of now we're taping on Friday. As of Thursday, they weren't sure.
Yeah. Well, as of Friday, when we're recording this show, as I go to look to put Mahomes back in, I'm told that he is doubtful.
He's still doubtful. Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
Doubtful.
Okay.
But so what we've got here is we've got the Kansas City Chiefs against the Minnesota Vikings in Kansas City. And this is just good old Uncle Dave pulling one out for you. This is going to be a Minnesota win.
Oh, dude, no.
No, I'm telling you. I'll make a side bet with you, Tim. The loser has to drive to Wisconsin to get the winner a McRib.
Oh, you know what? I might actually take that because the Packers had a tough time with Kansas City with Matt Moore at quarterback. And if the Packers had a tough time with him, the Vikes are going to have a tougher time.
There's one thing I know about the Minnesota Vikings. On games they have no reason winning, they win. And on games where we should walk all over the opponents like the little cockroaches they are, we send in the cheerleading squad and I'm pretty sure KinderCare.
You know what?
So
In games where we should walk all over the teams, we generally we step on our genitalia.
That's what I just said. Yeah, we send in the cheerleaders and
with Mahomes out, we should win by 20, and we'll probably lose by 30. I'm just saying.
That's all right. So McRib's on you when this thing falls in around your ears.
I will drive across the border if it's... Look
at this. We're not even allegiant anymore to one another, folks. There's battling between us. BetOnline.ag. Be part of the fun with us.
There's a whole reason why I didn't go for that game, because that game is too close to call. Even the odds makers say it's too close to call, even with Mahomes not playing.
That's why Dave Schrader weighed in, because I'm not afraid to make those calls, Tim. And I'm telling you, Minnesota Vikings all the way. You heard it here. So remember that as I'm dabbing away McRib sauce from my lips on Monday.
You're going to be driving.
Tim has had to drive to Wisconsin to buy for me.
You're going to be driving.
BetOnline.ag. Don't forget that promo code PODCAST1, PODCASTONE, for your 50% sign-up bonuses. BetOnline.ag, your online sportsbook experts. All right, Mr. Dennis, where are we going next in supernatural news?
Well, if you want Halloween all year round, Dave, if you just can't get enough of the scares, you're probably going to want to buy a haunted house.
Yeah, well, why not?
Well, I can give you plenty of reasons why not. But you're going to have to move to Staten Island, New York. That's just
all right, I'm in.
To it. If you're looking at a potential new home and you hear a creak in the staircase, a chilly wind blowing through, a small touch on your shoulder, when no one is there, by the way.
Tap, tap, tap.
You may be spooked. You may be somewhat intrigued. Do you buy the home? That's the question.
Sure. Well, I'm Darkness Dave from the Holzer Files. Of course I buy the home.
Mm-hmm. Maybe not the average person. If you want to check out if the home is haunted, localized.city lists houses that have the potential for paranormal activity based on proximity to cemeteries. It's an interesting way to do it. On Staten Island, many cemeteries border home communities. In addition, some abandoned and lost cemeteries that dot the island have been mowed over in favor of new homes. Ooh, it's the poltergeist syndrome. Like all formerly rural parts of New York City, Staten Island is full of cemeteries, some so old that they include Civil War veterans and those who left Ireland during the potato famine. This according to Aaron Gittleman of Localized.city. He added, Localized.city wants to let you know if you're living near cemeteries or alleged paranormal occurrences. It's fun or dead serious for us to track the occult in New York, but it's just one of the many things we keep track of to help people find a new home or learn about their current one. An example of residences being built on former cemetery property is the recent construction of 18 new apartments on a plot of land that was once part of a Sunnyside-based cemetery. The apartments, housed in three-story, six-family homes, were built on 0.71 acres that about Woodland Cemetery. Two-bedroom apartments in the homes are listed for about $2,400 a month. That seems kind of expensive, to be honest with you. But it's New York. In 2015, the cemetery's board members sold 0.71 acres of the graveyard land deemed not adequate to use for burial property that abuts Highland Avenue and Victory Boulevard for $525,000 to the Bull's Head-based Victory Highland LLC. Woodland Cemetery is made up of about 21,000 graves dating back to the early 1800s, including that of John King Vanderbilt, who endowed the first section of the cemetery. No paranormal activities in the new homes have been reported to the Advance. Some people think that paranormal is a joke. Others swear by it. Everyone loves talking about it. And now when you are looking for a new home or having concerns about your current home, you can turn to localized.city, said Steve Kalifowitz, president of localized.city. So there you go. There's a website you can go to if you want to see if you are living in a paranormally active location.
All right. And where are we going next? I know there's a couple of these in a row, so we'll stick them all together.
We're going to El Paso, where realtors must reveal paranormal activity when listing a house on the market. Imagine purchasing a property only to find out that it is haunted. Jackie York is a realtor for Century 21 in El Paso, who's been in the business for over 20 years. I have walked into homes where you get this ugly, heavy feeling, and you know it's something is off, said York. York says despite the number of homes she sold, selling properties with known paranormal activity is always a challenge. Sometimes you have to reduce the price of the home in order for it to sell, said York. According to Texas code, sellers are required to tell potential buyers if the home is haunted or if there have been reports of paranormal activity. If we don't know, then we're okay. If we go into a house and we just kind of feel there's something off about it, and we've never told anything, then we really don't have anything to say, or we don't have to say anything, she said. But we've physically been told about ghost hauntings or things happening in a home, and we don't disclose it. That puts us at fault. Ralph Moya purchased the Sombras del Pasado restaurant in Socorro just recently. The restaurant has a long history behind it, with it dating all the way back to 1852. Moya used to work at the restaurant in the 1970s. I've been around this building for so long, ever since I was a kid, my early teens, and it's nothing to me. I've heard stories, and I've heard the noises, I've heard the voices, but I just become friends with them, said Moya. When the restaurant went up for sale, he knew he had to buy it, despite all the spooky details. I believe in the spirits and the life after, but I've done nothing wrong to them, but I'm only here to help. I'm here to restore this building, and they can stay here as long as they want. I hope they stick around. Now Moya is planning on fixing up the property and converting it into a cultural center for the city of Socorro. He also plans on renting out the restaurant for events in the future. There you go. Let's see here. And then there's also another story here about how most people would rather live in a haunted house than near a highway.
Count me as one.
I guess the noise levels are different, but or comparable, one or the other. If you're looking to buy a home with ghosts roaming around the kitchen during your Halloween house hunting, you may have had some competition. Believers in the paranormal are 4 times more likely to buy a home with a haunted history than those who don't believe. This, according to a recent survey by Clever Real Estate. The survey asked 1,015 Americans about their supernatural beliefs and whether they would pay more or less for a haunted home. The results also show that people take other spooky factors into consideration when deciding to purchase a home, like living near a cemetery. I have people who really love living next to graveyards, said real estate broker Deborah Woodrow of Woodrow Realty. Boy, say that 10 times fast. Woodrow Realty in Medina, New York. They have quiet neighbors. There are some cases where you could boost a home's price if it's haunted. Respondents with paranormal experiences were 13 times more likely to pay more for a home if it's haunted than those without. That, according to the survey's results. Half of those who would give extra money said they would pay up to 50% more. You can even find haunted house listings in online communities of those looking to buy or sell a home. For instance, one house hunter wanted an abode with 3 bathrooms and ghosts that aren't horribly invasive. I didn't know you can order that. Ghosts that aren't horribly invasive.
Yes, that's it only comes with the luxury seat warming package.
I see, yes. Mm-hmm. Real estate agent Chelsea Phillips in Savannah, Georgia, who sells houses in the spooky famous city, says some home buyers believe the possibility of running into a ghost adds to a house's charm. It's something funny to say about your house, she said. They like spirits, they like a story, and they like the interesting. Homeowner Tony McMurtry has been living for 13 years in a house famously known for its paranormal activity in Albion, New York. Sightings of a woman have been reported, but McMurtry says he's not scared because he knows it's either the ghost or his mother or the previous owner. Just a shot in the dark as to who it is. I hear so many things every night, but I'm so used to it that it doesn't faze me, he said. With home prices often scary enough, spirits possibly floating around the house don't top the list of reasons that people decide not to buy, whether they believe in ghosts or not. The survey from Clever Real Estate found that future homeowners were more willing to live in a haunted house than to live near a highway or a former meth lab. There's interesting choices. There's also a generational gap when it comes to buying scary homes. Among millennials, 24% willing to buy a haunted house, while 2% of baby boomers were open to doing so. The survey attributed this gap to economic disparities. Millennials saddled with debt and learning lower incomes. I think earning lower incomes. Somebody loves bass backwards over at USA Today.
Somebody's dyslexic.
Yeah. Are hunting for less expensive homes, and houses listed as haunted often cost less. If you're haunted house hunting around Missouri, get ready to fight for a bargain. 1/3 of Missourians are willing to buy a home where someone was murdered or died of natural causes, while half were more likely to buy a home near a cemetery. Very interesting. There you go. If you're a Missourian, heck, you'll take it if it's cheap, if something tragic has happened there. So there you go.
All right. Do we have another story in that same vein right next to it, or should we take our break now?
I have a story about the new owners of the Conjuring House.
Yeah, we'll come back to that then. Stay tuned. We got more coming your way right here on the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness. Attention, true crime lovers. The hit Reels channel show Autopsy is coming to Podcast One with all new episodes. Join Dr. Michael Hunter and those involved in the cases as they examine the autopsy reports for some of the most famous celebrity deaths of our time, including Patrick Swayze, Chris Farley, and Natalie Wood. Download new episodes of Autopsy every week on Apple products at Podcast One.
Beyond the Darkness.
All right, folks, we want you to be a part of the show. We have the Voices from Beyond voicemail, 651-300-4977. It's your chance to shine. So call in, tell us your paranormal stories, just like this caller did.
What's up, Tim and Dave? This is Wayne from outside of Chicago. I'm trying to make sure I don't repeat any stories with you guys, so I'm going to tell you a story about when I found out about solfeggio sounds and meditation to heal and empower your chakras and your aura. And I was doing this, you put headphones on and you listen to the sounds and you meditate. And while I was doing it, I could actually feel energy between my hands. It actually felt like a ball was between my hands floating even. It really amazed me. But I was walking down by the strip mall, and I was standing there, and some Asian guy with a Fu Manchu beard, looking like he's from a Bruce Lee movie, comes up behind me, and he goes, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I turn around, and I'm like, "Who, me?" And he's like, "You're glowing." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I've been working on my chakras, meditating." And he's like, "Oh, that's good." And then I turned to walk away, and I'm like, "Wait a second, what was that about?" And I turned back, and he's gone. So I was like, "Where'd he go?" So I looked around the building. He wasn't anywhere to be found. And I thought, that's kind of strange. Then later, this is like recently, I was looking online, and this girl had the exact same story, but she said it was her guardian angel. And it really tripped me out when she said that her angel talked to her the same way, like he knew her. And I don't know, when I heard that, it tripped me out. But another time, I was asking Archangel St. Michael to get rid of any negative entities in my home, because every time I would fall asleep on the computer, something would knock near me and wake me up. And one time we lit this candle that we got from the store. It was one of those religious ones with Jesus on it. And as soon as we lit the candle, it literally sounded like a pebble hit the front door, the TV, the other wall, and then the other window. So it made a circle of knocks that were so loud, I thought the TV was going to break. That really freaked me out. So I asked to get any negative entities or energies out of my home. And it felt like everything lifted, everything felt lighter. But then I hear something jiggling the handle of the back door. And I'm like, I knew it wasn't a person because they would have knocked or something. So I took my camera and stuck it. This is how long ago it was. I had a digital camera. I stuck it out the window that's next to the door and took a picture. And what I got was a mist with like an outline.
Hey, Tim. Hey, Dave. Hope you guys are doing well. This is Daryl from Sacramento, California. And I'm calling because when I was a kid, the street that we lived on, there was a horrible murder across the street. It was our neighbor, and she was 9 months pregnant, and I was 11 or 12 when I used to mow her lawn. And a mass murderer by the name of Richard Trenton Chase. He killed her and he killed several others, and he was known as the vampire killer. And when the police had caught him, he said that he had followed one lady home, and when he went up to open the door, because the door handle was locked, that was a sign that they didn't want him to come in and kill him. But if the door was unlocked, then that was an invitation for them to come kill him. Well, apparently he had followed my sister home and went up and tried to open the door, and it was locked. And he walked across the street, and he brutally cut the baby out of her, ate her heart, put it on the refrigerator, on a plate in the refrigerator. And when her husband came in, he walked in through the back door and opened the refrigerator and saw blood all over the floor and saw this object he didn't know. He walked into their bedroom, and she had been brutally just sliced apart. And over a couple-week period, he had killed several other families and children and took their bodies to his apartment and ate their bodies, the children's bodies. And in a weird way, we were, as kids, we would play basketball behind this church, and he had put the remains of one of the babies in a box to where we used to play basketball. And we were there the day that the guys stumbled upon the box and found the remains. But thank God that POS is dead and he's no longer around. But yeah, you can check it out. And his name was Richard Trenton Chase. He was known as the vampire killer. So, all right, guys, love the show. You guys make my week. So take care.
Another great story. Very cool. Thank you. And if you guys missed it, on Halloween, we put up a special edition of Beyond the Darkness. So you get an extra episode this week. And in that episode was all of your stories we've been collecting over the last few years. We put 2 hours worth of programming together of weird and spooky, supernatural, fun, quirky stories. That was all on Halloween. So if you missed it, go back, download it for free right now. Enjoy it. And be a part of our show in the future by calling our number, 651-300-4977. You have 3 minutes to leave a story. And if you have more than 3 minutes, just hang up, call right back, and keep doing it in 3-minute increments. Tim will piece them together, and we will share your stories. All right, speaking of sharing stories, Tim, The Conjuring. Now, the Ghost Adventures crew just did a 2-hour Halloween special at that house, the Conjuring house. Mm-hmm. And Zach claims that it made him very ill after leaving there, very sick. What's the article you've got for us?
Well, the new owners of the Conjuring House talk of their so far 4-month investigation. The new owners of the house that inspired the Conjuring movie have been there for 4 months now doing their own investigations, and apparently there's been a lot of activity. Some of it is going to be revealed on that special that Dave's talking about, the Travel Channel special, Ghost Adventures. The latest investigative tool to find out what's really going on in and around this Harrisville house is a metal detector, believe it or not. Roger Perrin, one of the former owners, told how one of his daughters said an entity in her bedroom told her that there were 7 dead soldiers buried in the walls. They debunked that by saying, the walls aren't big enough to hold bodies, recalled Corey Heinzen, the new owner of the house. He said Rogers suggested maybe they're in the retaining wall out back. They would probably be buried in their uniform, or at least we might find the musket balls or something or anything like that, added Heinzen. Instead, they found the entire property is highly unusually magnetic. Bill Brock is Heinzen's lead paranormal investigator that said that seems to be the common thread that holds a lot of these paranormal experiences together. The house and property goes beyond that, or goes beyond what would be considered haunted, that somehow the place is a portal where inexplicably the past, present, and future overlap, Brock wonders, does this magnetic field that we're sitting on have the ability to create these portals and let this energy or whatever it is we're dealing with in and out? Heinzen and crew have been documenting their own first-hand occurrences, energy bursts like an old-fashioned camera flashbulb. They would go off throughout the house at any given time, said Heinzen. You'd just hear that poof, that noise, but then you'd have a small, like, little blue orb that you would see just floating in the air, and then it would fizzle out, and then you'd hear another small pop, he added, with eyes wide, like he's seeing it again. Jennifer Heinzen, Corey's wife, said they both saw shadow figures at the same time in the middle of the night while in bed. She woke up to see the head, the shoulders, but a black shadow. To me, it reminded me of Slender Man. It was kind of creepy, but it was kind of exciting, she went on to say. Knocking, objects moving, disembodied voices, preceded by a static noise while TVs and lights flicker. Corey said, it said hello. The Travel Channel Ghost Adventures series took over the house for 3 days in August with its own investigation. That special aired on Halloween night. While everyone at the house is intrigued, they're not scared and hope to open the house to tours by mid-November, and will share with their evidence that someone or something is taking place at the Harrisville house. So there you go.
I didn't have a chance to watch it. Being Halloween, it was crazy busy for me, so I didn't have. Did you get a chance to check it out?
I didn't know because I was editing shows, and we had about 100 kids that came to the door for Halloween. So,
ooh,
yeah,
good for you. We get nothing in our neighborhood. I bought really? 80 packages of pretzels. Yeah. That may be why nobody comes to my house. We're the crazy people who give away pretzels.
Yeah, unless you're giving away beer with the pretzels, I don't think anyone is coming to the door.
You know what my thinking was? My kids are coming back with enough candy. I didn't want to have leftover candy on top of the candy they brought back.
Ah. Huh? Yeah.
Huh? All right. And I tried doing the popcorn balls. I was so excited about it last year, but the crazy glue that I used to bind them, I guess, is not edible. Who knew?
No, yeah.
They get real bitchy about that, too, when you're using non-edible glue.
Yeah.
So,
that's probably why no one's coming by.
Yeah. Yep. All right, sir. Where are we off to next?
Right back here to Minnesota, where the ghosts are mostly Minnesota nice. Who knew? I'm just saying. Huh. Yeah.
Well, golly gosh, and boo and all.
That's almost like the end of the story with that headline, isn't it?
Yeah.
Minnesota ghosts are mostly Minnesota nice. The end.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, that's not much of a story.
Sorry.
Yeah. Gosh, oh golly, really? Okay. It's Halloween, time for scary ghost stories. Sorry to disappoint you folks, but there's also no shortage of ghost stories around the Twin Cities, you know. And they're mostly nice ghosts. Yeah.
Well, that's what you have to say.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure I'm buying it.
It's like, hey, you want some hot dish? You want to sit down for some cocoa? Take a boat out on the lake?
Boat.
Yeah. A ghost at the Lafayette Club in Minnetonka Beach, one of the most reported over the years at the century-old club, even cleaned up after herself. That's how nice it is. Just saying. Lots of Minnesota nice. It's so warm and cheery. It was 2006, recalls Scott Bremer, the club's general manager. A set of child's footprints suddenly appeared on the floor by the club's ice machine. Staffers mopped and scrubbed, but could not get the black footprints off the red floor. Meanwhile, another set of kids' footprints appeared in the fresh concrete around the club's new pool. And someone saw a little girl running up and down the stairs out back. So the club called in a group called Anoka Paranormal Investigations who attempted to contact the girl. After that, the footprints disappeared in both locations, Bremer said. Not scary enough for you? Well, years before that, Bremer had another unsettling experience. One night after midnight, Bremer and a coworker rode an elevator up to the third floor to put away some party decorations. The elevator door opened up and we pushed the cart out, Bremer recalls. All of a sudden it felt cold, damp, and the hairs on the back of our necks stood up. We looked down the hallway to our right and there was something floating down the hallway. Something green. We looked at each other, backed into the elevator, and pushed the button for the first floor. The party decorations did not get put away that night. Boo kids. A ghost that haunted the MyPillow call center could definitely be called rude. some years ago, said Amy Fensky, who worked there when it was located in an old schoolhouse in the city of Carver. The center stayed open around the clock to take orders prompted by late-night pillow infomercials. Fensky's co-workers complained of seeing a ghost in the women's bathroom. They said she looked like a young girl in a petticoat, Fensky said. She would turn the water on and make the towel dispenser fall open because she was just that mean. And sometimes the petticoated girl would even crawl under the doors into the stalls and definitely crosses the line of Minnesota etiquette, by gosh, even for phantoms. We were trying to sell pillows with the phones ringing all night with employees who were afraid to use the bathroom. Many people have witnessed things they believe might be paranormal activities, doors flying open, objects getting hurled across the room, doorbells ring on empty front stoops, fresh batteries drain all at once, a black shape appears to move around in a series of photos. A recorder left on captures a man's voice gruffly saying, "Get out." But for the most part, Minnesota ghosts aren't so frightening, or very frightening at all. 3 years ago, Jay Weberling moved into a Minneapolis house that had been featured on a TV show about haunted houses. Supposedly, the house held 8 spirits, 6 children in all, a ghost named Bud who lived in the basement, and a guy named Roger who would play the grand piano in the living room. That's kind of cheery. It's nice. Weberling heard all the stories before closing on the house. He moved in anyway. "I love the house," he said. "I don't think anybody could have deterred me from that. If they were killing people or something, which of course they wouldn't have done, I might have thought twice." 3 years later, Weberling has never had any weird experiences in his sunny, happy home. "If there are spirits there," he said, "it's comforting to me that they're not mean things, just gentle souls who didn't want to be left behind." There you go. There's your Minnesota nice ghosts.
Well, boo.
Well, boo there, you know.
Boo. All right.
Boo, you kids.
Minnesota nice. Speaking of nice, you know what would be nice? Another phone call, Tim.
Okay.
What do you think? Should we do it?
Yowder hey.
All right. Here's another caller from 651-300-4977. Our voices from beyond voicemail with another chilling paranormal encounter.
Hey, guys. Hi, Tim. It's your girl from the Berg. Hope you're all doing well. I just wanted to call in because I think I might have to do my stories in installments. I know you hate that, but I'm going all the way back to the early 70s. The house that my parents bought, for years prior to that, my mom would drive past this house and she would tell my grandmother, her mother, "I'm going to live in that house one day. One day I'm going to live in that house." Now, mind you, this house is just a simple ranch. There's nothing spectacular about it. It was on a main road, but my mom was destined to get into this house. So a few years later, her and my father married. They had me, and they wanted to live in a house, obviously. So the house goes up for sale. My mom tells my dad they go in to see it. They meet the people that are living there. And they said that they needed to sell the house because the owner, the husband, was taking a job out of state, and they needed to sell it. So they go to this realtor, they go in, they see the house, and all of a sudden they put in an offer. Well, they couldn't afford the house. It was too much money. Another gentleman put in his offer, and they accepted it. However, this guy's loan fell through. So they call my parents, and they accept my parents' offer, which was close to $10,000 less than their asking price. So my parents get into this house, and like I said, they were told that the family was moving out of state for the husband getting a job offer. From the day that they moved into the house, they started hearing people walking when they would be downstairs. It was a ranch, like I said. They'd be in the basement, and you could hear people walking. They would hear people whispering and talking. My grandmother would never want to be left alone in that house for any reason. She would just leave with them. And I started to do things in my crib that they couldn't explain. My mom would put me to bed at night in my crib, and my mom and dad would wake up to knocking on the walls, and they would get up and they'd look, and it would be me knocking on the walls saying, "Shh, what's that? Shh, who's there?" And they put me back to bed. Well, this went on for months, and they couldn't figure out how I was getting out of the crib. They didn't know what was happening. So that all goes on. What I'm telling you kind of leads into something when I was in my late teens, early 20s. And I'll tell you that part of the story so this all makes sense. But when we had the blizzard, I think, of 91 out here, my boyfriend and I at the time, we were down in Hilton Head. So we drove back after the blizzard, and you know when the snow's down and everything's super, super quiet. So as we're walking up to the door, I could hear voices coming from the front door. They were literally coming out of the front door at me once I opened up the storm door. And it was a man and a woman. You could not understand what they were saying, but it was like they were arguing, and it was this back and forth, this whispering coming at me through the door. So I put the key in, and as soon as I pushed the door open, the voices stopped. And in my mind, I thought, oh, it must be my parents. They're waiting up for us. I get into the house. It's dark. My mom and dad come out of the room. Okay, they're glad we're home. We're safe, this and that. They go back to bed. So my boyfriend and I go, and we sit down on the couch in the complete darkness in the family room. Yes, we were tired. We were not drinking. We didn't have any drugs, nothing like that. And as we're sitting there, I can hear these voices again. And I look over at him, and his eyes are as big as quarters. And I'm like, do you hear that? And in my mind, after all the paranormal stuff that I had experienced in this house, I thought when they built the house, they must have left a radio inside the wall, and it just turned itself on. Completely irrational, but I was trying to make sense of it. So I got up from the couch. I put my ear to the wall where I could hear this whispering again, and it would shoot to another part of the room. So I'd run over there, and I would listen, and once I got close, it would shoot to another part of the room. So these voices were just traveling all over in this room, and I looked at my boyfriend. I'm like, do you hear that? He said, yes, I hear it. I must have left the radio on in my Jeep. He treks back out to the snow, comes back in. He did not leave his radio on. So I said to him, what is that? He said, I don't know, but you're freaking me out. I don't understand you. You know things before they happen. You're creepy. You're scaring me. I got to go home. So my boyfriend left for the night. Years later, we're still friends. He's actually my husband. He carries all of our insurance for our homeowners and whatnot. But I asked him about it, and he said, yes, I heard exactly what you heard. I cannot explain it. Do not bring it up to me again because it scares me. So that's just one little story, but I have many, many more from Ed and Lorraine Warren coming to investigate the home, an unexplained house fire a few years ago that they had two different investigators come in. They couldn't explain what happened. Black masses in the house, not as in church, but shape. Closet doors slamming, being touched. But there's just a laundry list of things that went on. The home has been blessed 3 times. Unfortunately, 2 of the Serbian Orthodox priests met somewhat of a demise after doing the blessings in our house. Just a lot of bad things have happened living in this house, and I don't know what it is. Things have followed us. My son is someone that can see things and know things as well. My daughter had an incident where she had seen something and it scared her so badly at the age of 5, she has pretty much pushed that part of her aside. I just don't even know where to begin with the amount of craziness that's gone on in that place. So if you're interested, let me know. I will call back and fill you in on when the priest was there and what had happened, the phone call that they received while he was there. Just craziness. All right. I love you guys. I love you very much. Tim, love you. And I'll call in soon. Thanks, guys. Happy Halloween.
Just that simple, folks. I don't know what more you need to learn. Call us, share your story, and it could be featured right here on the best in Paranormal Talk Radio. Where are we off to next, sir?
We're going to Bangkok, Oriental City, where the city don't know what the city... Actually, the city knows what it's getting. It's getting a ghost. Just saying.
Yeah.
Paranormal activities are happening at the late Prime Minister's residence, Dave. It's all kind of spooky activity. It's kind of Kind of fun. Yeah. Soldiers are guarding a mansion where the late former leader Prem Tinsalananda. How's that for a name?
Tinsalunga?
Tinsalananda.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. Lived until his death in May, and they said they've encountered multiple paranormal activities in recent weeks. Several guards said they sometimes noticed a strong scent of General Prem's favorite soaps inside his residence, which was technically owned by the Army, and the lights would go on and off on their own. An elevator at the mansion would also move without anyone pressing a button, according to the soldiers, who call the ex-premier by the endearing term Pa. Pa values his privacy, and he was very frugal. He liked to turn off the lights by himself. Whenever he left the room, he would turn them off immediately, said one soldier, who declined to give his name. Prem died on May 26th at the age of 98 after a long and influential career as Army Chief, Prime Minister, and a top advisor to two monarchs, King Rama IX and his son King Rama X. His body has been lying in state in a royally sponsored funeral at Bemchamabamet Temple. His cremation date is pending a royal approval by His Majesty the King. Some soldiers at the residence said the elevator also moved on its own when they were packing up his personal belongings to be kept at another facility last week. I don't know what signal he was sending, or maybe he didn't want to leave, the same soldier said. The mansion, located in Dusit area, is due to be handed back to the Army, who will in turn transfer its ownership to the Crown Property Bureau on Thursday. It is unclear what the palace is planning to do with the historic house. So there you go.
Very cool. Very cool. Weird stories. Prime Minister haunted houses. Chilling. It's a lot of ghosts this week. Lots of ghosts. Halloween did pass, so I guess that shouldn't be a big surprise to me. But I guess the aliens were even hiding because they were afraid they were going to get haunted.
I guess so, yeah. They're having a tough time with stuff, that's for sure.
All right, where are we off to next?
I've got two more stories here for you. So let's see. We've got science explaining ghost sightings. Speaking of all the ghost stories, science has an explanation for you, by the way. For many people, ghosts are real, and so are ghost sightings. In fact, a recent poll revealed that it's a belief held by around 45% of Americans living in the United States, and it's just slightly less than the number of Americans who believe in the biblical God, which is 56%. But these are ghost sightings. But are these ghost sightings really true? Is there a scientific explanation behind all of it? Here are some of the answers. Ghosts real or real, as in movie real? In a recent blog, Sherry A. Hill, a paranormal researcher and author of Scientifical Americans, that's right, I said that word, the culture of amateur paranormal researchers, wrote that for over 200 years, many people have looked for evidence for ghosts and the supposed life after death. There are millions of pages of previous research and experimentation into paranormal ideas. Definite proof has never been found, she wrote. And while that may be true, Benjamin Radford, author of Investigating Ghosts, The Scientific Search for Spirits, there are numerous logical explanations for them. According to him, there are various factors and experiences that people can go through, some of which can be explained as paranormal. For one thing, there's the power of belief, meaning that if a person expects something to be haunted, then they are more than likely going to see it that way. The two most powerful psychological factors implicated in hauntings are context and belief. Christopher French, a professor of psychology and head of the Anomalistic Psychology Research Unit at the University of London, said, studies show that if people are told that a location is haunted, they report more anomalous experiencers, sense of presence, shivers down the spine, changes in temperatures, etc., than if that suggestion is not given to them. There's also cultural psychology, which is people getting ideas from media representations such as horror movies and TV shows, conditioning their minds that such things can also happen in real life. Another logical explanation could be a phenomenon there you go, called promiscuous I can't say the word. It's too much reading. Which is essentially just a person projecting their own meaning and oftentimes fear into a mundane situation. Experts have also noted that there's no actual scientific evidence that can validate the effectiveness of ghost detectors. As to why people love to believe in ghost stories, Terrence Hines, a professor of psychology at Pace University, stated that it's pretty simple. According to him, most people like to believe that there's a life after this, and believing in the paranormal can help solidify that concept. So there you go.
All right, let's do it. We've got one more call we're going to take right now. This is from our Voices from Beyond voicemail at 651-300-4977. What's our next eerie tale?
Hi, David and Tim. I've been listening to your podcast for a while. I have had a bunch of experiences in my life interacting with paranormal. But I went, one of the coolest ones, though, was that I went to the, we used to be called Mary Washington College and is now called the University of Mary Washington in Fredericksburg, Virginia. The campus is built on a Civil War battlefield, and the Battle of Fredericksburg, sometimes called the Battle of Sunken Road, if you read about that or look for pictures of it, it's just bodies everywhere. It was a top of a hill, and it was called Mary's Heights. And, one side had the advantage at the top of the hill, and the other side did not at the bottom of the hill. My freshman year dorm was built at the crest of this hill, where at the bottom of the hill, a lot of the, dead bodies in the pictures of this battle were actually located. It's a very steep hill down the back of our dorm. And my room was kind of overlooking that. But I'm not sure that had anything to do with what happened in my dorm room. So I had a dorm room in not very old building, but the whole campus was sort of old. And my roommate and I had the same name. We were both named Mary. And we had got to campus in August, and in the middle of October is my birthday. And we had gone out around with the whole floor, around all after noon, gone downtown, come back, and we're kind of taking a nap. And we both woke up and looked at each other, like sat up in bed and looked at each other, because we both heard somebody say our name, which we had the same name, say Mary, and to the point that we both sat up and looked at each other. And we shared a bathroom with another room and looked at the door to that bathroom because we thought maybe somebody had come through the suite and tried to get our attention, but there's no one in the room but us. And I said to her, "Did you hear that?" And she said, "Yeah, was that you?" And I said, "No." "Was that you?" And so we got really creeped out. So we had a bunch of weird stuff like that happen in the room that year. And then I went downtown when I was older and worked at a bar. And a lot of the bars in Fredericksburg, Virginia have a lot of ghost stories, and I experienced a lot of weird stuff down there. And I don't know, you guys should maybe go down there and look at that. But I experienced a lot of things personally, like brooms leaning up against a wall and then falling completely over. We saw things on security cameras, jukeboxes turning on, and what have you. So I'm down there at a homecoming years later, and we were at one of those bars, and one of the bartenders was a current student, and we were chatting, and I was like, "Oh, I used to bartend here," and we were talking about the ghost stories. And she's like, "Oh, well, my dorm room when I was a freshman was totally haunted." And I was like, "Oh, what dorm did you live in?" And she named the same dorm room and the same room that I lived in as a student, and the same things, like hearing your name shouted when you're like just falling asleep and sitting up in bed, like, that kind of thing. So then, the last piece of the story is that one of my really good friends is now working for the alumni office. And so she has access to the buildings, and for alumni events, she can get us to, not to stay at the door if we want to. And, but she had toured our old dorm rooms, like our old building, and they had, for some reason, shut down the room that I used to live in, and that this other girl used to live in who said it was definitely haunted. And we both got the same vibes off the bar we worked at. But that room where we used to hear spirit shouting our name is no longer a room. Apparently they've made it a storage room, and I wonder maybe it's because the room was too haunted to keep kids in. So anyway, happy Halloween, you guys. Thanks for all the great stories. You guys put me to sleep every night. Very grateful.
Pretty good. Pretty good. I'm not going to say much, but that's pretty good. Now, this last story, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
I figured this is the way to go out. This is probably the creepiest story of all of them today. Everybody's thinking we're setting up for a joke, but no, this is kind of a violent haunting. Where are we off to for our final story this week?
We're headed off to Britain, Dave, where a couple flee a haunted house which left a woman's leg broken and scalded by coffee.
Zoinks!
Yeah. Nick Outerside has written a book on the spooky goings-on in the house. An evil poltergeist moved furniture and flung objects in a bid to drive a terrified British couple from their countryside home, that duo claim in a newly released book. The couple said they experienced 18 months of paranormal events, including flying objects and unexplained injuries, before they called it a day. Sinister events began just minutes after the Outersides moved into Plimpton Cottage in Whitchurch, a small market town in Shropshire. Gail Outerside was in the garden when she was injured. Her investigative journalist husband, Nick Outerside, said he now believes in ghosts after the incident, which was the first of many. From the moment my wife broke her leg in a hidden hole in the garden less than 20 minutes after the removal van arrived, right up to the Christmas of that year, each day was potted with what I can only describe as paranormal activity, he said. Weird flashes of light, floating orbs, moving and falling objects were soon a regular occurrence, and prompted Nick to investigate the history of the freaky property. He soon made a dark discovery that prompted more questions than answers when he found out 7 unidentified skeletons had been found in the garden of the house in the 1950s. The unexplained occurrences in the cottage did not cease, but now we began an investigation as to when the bodies were buried and what became of the skeletons, because no one seemed to know, said Nick. The worst of the paranormal events occurred in the kitchen when Nick taking photos of what looked like orbs floating in the air. He also carried out experiments which proved furniture had been moved in the dead of night and felt peculiar pulses of energy in the kitchen doorway. He said the kitchen is the worst area. I was putting up shelves once and all the screws just dropped to the floor. One time an ironing board fell on my wife's head for no reason. There was another time when my wife's coffee just went up in the air and scalded her. There was even a time when a pack of bacon and eggs just moved into the area on their own. I joke in the book that the spirits might have been making themselves breakfast. They just broke out some bacon and eggs and started cooking, Dave.
Well, it's good to know that even in the afterlife, bacon and eggs is still the breakfast of champions.
It really is, yeah. As well as noting down the weird and mind-baffling happenings, Nick researched the history of the house and spoke to former residents dating back to the 80s. All came out with similar stories. I found out all sorts, he said. Before we moved, we did invite a medium to come and see if she could feel anything. She couldn't, but then as she was leaving, a light flashed between our legs with no explanation. I think that's probably chlamydia. Yeah.
Yeah.
He soon found out.
Where did you get chlamydia that makes your crotch flash?
I read about it once in a medical journal. He soon found out that there were a number of theories about the bones in the garden, which he explores in a book about his experiences. After further research, he believes there may be more remains buried beneath and that they may hold the key to the weird activity in the home. Theories include that they are victims of the bubonic plague which hit Whitchurch in the 1650s. The property was also owned by Lord Egerton in the 1790s, with Nick speculating that maybe the bodies were his servants. The couple had enough by 2015 when they moved, but it wasn't the end of the freaky experiences. Nick said, "I went back about 9 months after we left. I was supposed to be meeting a friend at the pub, but I was a bit early. I thought I'd go and wait outside the cottage. I parked outside, and as I pulled up, I felt my phone go. It had frozen, and I couldn't reset it. I had to take it apart and do a full factory reset. So lost a lot of pictures I had from the cottage." For the book, Nick sought the testimonies of more than a dozen eyewitnesses, university professors, academic researchers, spiritual advisors, and paranormal experts to try and solve the mysteries of the spooky building. He said, "The whole experience changed my way of thinking and believing entirely. Now I know there is something paranormal in our world which we do not yet understand and which I cannot begin to explain." One might expect a battle-hardened former editor to be more than a little skeptical of scare stories and paranormal shenanigans, but Nick explained that the evidence was too hard to ignore. He said, "Until 2013, I did not believe in any so-called hereafter, nor did I believe in ghosts or spirits. I had been an investigative newspaper journalist for more than 28 years, and by the very nature of my work had to deal in hard-proven facts, but all that has changed. Even 2 weeks before we actually moved our furniture and belongings into the house, weird and unexplained things began to happen." Nick recounts what happened in the history of the house in his new book, Bones, The Mystery of Plimpton Cottage, which is due out in January of 2020.
Well, that's it for this week, kids. Thanks for tuning in. And remember, we'll be back on Tuesday. Richard Estep is back with us, and we're going to be examining the ghosts and hauntings and murders at Fox Hollow Farms. Also, we'll be looking at creepy stories involving John Gacy's case and a haunting that follows. This was originally going to be an episode we did here in October, as it was spooky and weird. Unfortunately, it was a misconnection with Richard, but we are finally getting together with him. So if you guys don't mind, we're going to have one more week of strange true crime. So make sure you tune in. That'll be this Tuesday on True Crime Tuesday. If you haven't already signed up, go subscribe right now, because again, by supporting True Crime Tuesday, you help support this program as well. That's the only income Tim and I make, is off of the subscribers, really, of True Crime Tuesday. So when you subscribe to that program, not only do you get 4 new episodes every month, but you get all of our past archives. That also affords us to be able to continue to bring you this show every Saturday and Sunday. So please, if you have it in your heart, make sure to support the boys that bring the entertainment to you week in and week out right here on Beyond the Darkness.